First contact under fire. Captain Alex Reeves cursed as plasma fire scorched the rock inches from his head. The ambush had separated him from the rest of Echo Squad, and his comm unit crackled with nothing but static. The mission had gone sideways the moment they'd landed on Nexus 7, a resource-rich planet that had become the latest flashpoint in humanity's war with the Araxians. The aliens, arthropod-like beings with exoskeletons and complex social hierarchies, had been humanity's most formidable enemy for nearly a decade. Their technology was roughly equal to human advancements, but their natural armor and adaptability made them fearsome opponents on the battlefield. Alex ducked behind a twisted hunk of metal, the remains of a transport vehicle. His HUD displayed critical damage to his armor's communication system and dwindling power reserves. The orbital bombardment had been unexpected, a desperate tactic that suggested something big was happening. Command, this is Captain Reeves. Does anyone copy? Static answered him. A tremor shook the ground beneath his boots. Not the rhythmic pounding of artillery, but something else. Something massive moving nearby. Alex readied his pulse rifle, the weapon humming with energy as he peered around the edge of his cover. That's when he saw her. An Araxian, but unlike any he'd encountered before. Larger, with ornate ridges along her carapace and iridescent patterns that shimmered even under the layer of dust and debris that covered her. She was trapped beneath a collapsed section of what appeared to be an escape pod, blue ichor, Araxian blood, pooling beneath her. Alex knew enough about Araxian hierarchy to recognize royalty when he saw it. Intelligence briefings had shown images of the reclusive Araxian queen, but seeing her in person was something else entirely. Her compound eyes fixed on him, mandibles clicking in what might have been defiance or pain. "Go ahead, human," she said, her voice translated through a device embedded in her thorax. "Finish what my own kind started." Alex kept his weapon trained on her but didn't fire. "Your own kind tried to kill you." "Politics," she replied, antenna twitching with what Alex interpreted as bitter amusement. "Complicated." Another explosion rocked the landscape, closer this time. Whatever was happening, both of them were in the blast radius. Alex made a split-second decision that would change everything. "Don't move," he said, approaching cautiously. "Not much choice," the Queen replied, gesturing with an uninjured limb toward her trapped body. Alex assessed the situation. The metal trapping her was heavy but not impossible to lift with his armor's enhanced strength. "I'm going to help you," he said, hardly believing his own words. "But if you try anything, I won't hesitate to put a plasma round through your head." "Clear." "Crystal," she replied, using the human idiom perfectly. With a grunt of effort, Alex lifted the metal debris. The Queen pulled herself free, her movements graceful despite obvious injuries. One of her 6 limbs hung at an awkward angle, and cracks ran through her exoskeleton in several places. "Can you walk?" Alex asked, keeping his distance. The Queen attempted to stand but collapsed immediately. "Negative." Alex checked his tactical map. They were in a valley surrounded by Araxian patrols, with human forces retreating to the south. The nearest neutral territory was a trading outpost, roughly 30 miles east. "What's your name?" he asked, still processing the absurdity of the situation. "Zaira," she replied. "Queen of the Western Hive and rightful ruler of all Araxian territories." She paused, antenna twitching. "And yours, human?" "Captain Alexander Reeves, Earth Defense Force." "Well, Captain Alexander Reeves," Zaira said, "if you truly intend to help me, we should leave immediately. The faction that arranged this assassination attempt will not stop until they confirm my death." Alex nodded, making his decision. He secured his rifle to his back and carefully lifted the alien queen. She was surprisingly light despite her size, her exoskeleton hollow in places unlike human bones. "This is treason," he muttered, mostly to himself. "For both of us," Zaira agreed, her limbs carefully arranging themselves to distribute her weight as he carried her. "Though I suspect you have ulterior motives." An Araxian queen would be valuable intelligence for your military. Alex began walking east, away from the battle. Let's just focus on surviving. We can discuss politics and espionage later. As they moved through the alien landscape, the sounds of battle faded behind them. Strange purple vegetation surrounded them, offering some cover from aerial reconnaissance. Nexus 7's twin suns beat down mercilessly, and Alex's suit struggled to maintain optimal temperature with the added heat of the Queen's body against his armor. Why would your own people want you dead? Alex finally asked after they had traveled in silence for several miles. Zyra's compound eyes studied him. The same reason your species fights mine. Fear of change, resistance to new ideas. She shifted slightly in his arms. I proposed peace talks with humans. Certain military factions found this unacceptable. Alex nearly stumbled in surprise. Peace talks? I've heard nothing about this. Of course not. Such negotiations would be conducted at the highest levels, far from the battlefield. Her antenna twitched. Your leaders have been receptive. Mine, less so. The implications were staggering. If what she said was true, Alex was carrying possibly the only hope for peace between their species. No wonder someone had tried to kill her. As the first sun began to set, they came upon a small cave system. Alex carefully set Zyra down at the entrance, checking for signs of habitation or danger before deeming it safe enough for temporary shelter. Rest, he said, removing his helmet and running a hand through his sweat-soaked dark hair. I'll take first watch. Zyra observed him with curious intensity. You look different without your shell. It's called a helmet, Alex corrected. And yes, humans don't have natural armor like your people. Soft, she observed, one appendage extending slightly toward him before withdrawing. Vulnerable. Alex raised an eyebrow. I'm not the one with a cracked exoskeleton. This elicited a sound he hadn't heard before, a rapid clicking that he realized might be the Araxian equivalent of laughter. As night fell, Alex used his medical kit to treat Zyra's wounds. The scanners weren't calibrated for Araxian physiology, but they provided enough data for him to apply emergency sealant to the worst cracks. Your species heals remarkably fast, he observed, watching as the edges of a smaller fracture had already begun to knit together. Evolutionary necessity, Zyra explained. Our exoskeletons must repair quickly between molting cycles. Alex handed her a container of water. Can you consume human supplies? Some, she replied, accepting the container with a delicate appendage. Our digestive systems can process most organic compounds, though efficiency varies. As she drank, Alex couldn't help but marvel at the situation. 24 hours ago, he had been leading his squad on a routine reconnaissance mission. Now he was treating the wounds of the enemy queen while hiding in a cave on a contested planet. Sleep, Zyra said eventually. I require less rest than humans. I will alert you to any danger. Against his better judgment, exhaustion eventually won out. Alex positioned himself where he could see both the cave entrance and the queen, his hand resting on his sidearm. As he drifted off, he heard Zyra's voice, softer than before. Thank you, Captain Alexander Reeves. Few of your kind would have shown such mercy. When morning came, Alex woke to find Zyra cleaning her injured limb with methodical precision. She had collected dew-covered leaves, which she offered to him. Hydration, she explained. Safe for human consumption. Alex accepted them cautiously, surprised by the thoughtful gesture. As he prepared to lift her again, he noticed her exoskeleton had taken on a subtle iridescent sheen where it had been dull the day before. Your wounds are improving, he observed. Yes, she confirmed, though I still cannot travel independently. He lifted her again, noticing how her limbs arranged themselves more efficiently around his armor, almost like an embrace. The contact should have repulsed him. Humans generally found Araxians unsettling with their insectoid appearance, yet he felt an unexpected comfort in the way she settled against him. As they continued their journey, Patrol ships from both sides occasionally passed overhead. Each time, they would find cover, holding perfectly still until the danger passed. During one such moment, pressed together beneath an overhanging rock formation, Alex felt Zara's antenna brush against his face in what seemed an almost tender gesture. "Your heart rate increases when we hide together," she observed. "Fear." Alex cleared his throat. "Situational awareness." "Indeed," she replied, her mandibles clicking in that way he now recognized as amusement. A convenient explanation. By the end of the first day of their journey, Alex realized something unsettling. He was beginning to see beyond the alien appearance to the intelligence and even grace of the being he carried. And more disturbing still, he was starting to care about her survival for reasons that had nothing to do with military intelligence. A fragile alliance. Dawn broke with crimson light filtering through Nexus 7's dense atmospheric clouds. Alex emerged from the hollow where they had spent the night, scanning the horizon with his armor's damaged but still functional optical system. Zara remained inside, her bioluminescent features dimmed to conserve energy. "Patrol vessels," Alex reported, ducking back inside. 2 Araxian, 1 human. "They're converging about 3 miles north." Zara's antenna twitched, receiving signals beyond human perception. "They seek me. The usurper, Commander Krell, has declared himself regent in my absence. He tells the Council I was assassinated by humans during peace negotiations." "Convenient," Alex muttered, checking his weapon systems. With power reserves at 18%, he would need to conserve energy for essential functions only. "So both our species are looking for us, and neither with friendly intentions." "Precisely why we must reach the neutral outpost," Zara replied, attempting to stand. Her exoskeleton creaked audibly, but she managed to remain upright on 5 of her 6 limbs. "The traitor Volok maintains communications equipment that can reach both our governments directly, bypassing military channels." Alex nodded, impressed by her resilience. "You're healing faster than I expected." "My biology prioritizes survival. As Queen, my regenerative capabilities exceed those of common Araxians." She moved toward him, still unable to traverse difficult terrain unaided. "However, I will require assistance across the lowlands ahead." Alex carefully lifted her once more, noting how her exoskeleton had begun to seal along the fracture lines. The blue ichor had dried, forming protective crusts over wounds that had been life-threatening just days before. "Tell me about these peace negotiations," Alex said as they moved eastward through increasingly dense vegetation. "How does a decade of interstellar war suddenly turn toward diplomacy?" Zara's compound eyes studied him, reflecting his own image back in dozens of tiny facets. "Not suddenly. The groundwork was laid 3 cycles ago, when your Admiral Chen protected an Araxian science vessel from pirate raiders, despite our species' conflict." "I remember that incident," Alex said, surprised. The official report claimed the science vessel was mistakenly identified as non-Araxian. "A convenient fiction for both sides," Zara confirmed. In reality, it opened a discreet channel of communication. Small gestures followed. Prisoner exchanges explained away as clerical errors. Withdrawal of forces from contested moons attributed to strategic repositioning. They fell silent as an Araxian patrol drone buzzed overhead, its sensors scanning the landscape. Alex crouched beneath a rock outcropping. Zara pressed against him, her limbs tucked tight to minimize their silhouette. Once the danger passed, Alex asked, "If peace was progressing, why try to assassinate you now?" "Because formal talks were scheduled to begin within the month. Commander Krill and his faction profit from war. Peace threatens their power." She shifted in his arms. "Your military has similar factions, does it not?" Alex couldn't deny it. There are those who've built careers on fighting Araxians. They wouldn't welcome peace either. By midday, they reached a river valley that offered both challenge and opportunity. The flowing water would mask their heat signatures from aerial scanners, but crossing the swift current with Zara's injuries presented risks. I can swim, she assured him, sensing his hesitation. Water does not impede Araxian movement as it does for some species. It's not the swimming I'm worried about, Alex replied, eyeing the river's far bank where steep terrain awaited. It's what comes after. Nevertheless, they proceeded. Alex kept his armor powered down, relying on physical strength to navigate the current with Zara partially supporting herself beside him. The water was surprisingly warm, rich with mineral deposits that left a metallic taste in Alex's mouth. On the far bank, as Alex helped Zara navigate the rocky incline, her injured limb caught between stones. She emitted a high-pitched sound that sent birds scattering from nearby trees. "Sorry," Alex said, quickly adjusting his grip to free her. His hands moved instinctively to support her wounded area, fingers pressing against a section of exoskeleton that felt different, softer, almost pliable. Zara went completely still, her compound eyes fixing on him with startling intensity. "Did I hurt you?" he asked, concerned by her reaction. "No," she replied, her translated voice containing an unfamiliar harmonic. "That area is sensitive, reserved for specific interactions." Alex removed his hand immediately, embarrassment flooding him as he realized the implications. "I apologize. I didn't know." "Of course not," she said, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Interspecies biological knowledge is limited by design. Military protocol discourages understanding that might humanize the enemy." The word choice, humanize, struck Alex as both ironic and profound. They continued in silence until reaching a plateau that offered visibility in all directions. There, they paused to assess their route. The trading outpost was still approximately 20 miles east, a journey that would take them through territories actively patrolled by both human and Araxian forces. As Alex shared his water rations with Zira, she suddenly stiffened, antenna vibrating rapidly. "Communications intercept," she explained, body perfectly still as she focused. "Military broadcast on all Araxian frequencies." "What are they saying?" Alex asked, hand moving instinctively to his weapon. When Zara responded, her voice contained an emotion he hadn't heard before: rage. "Krell addresses the High Council. He claims evidence that humans tortured and executed me. He has declared total war." Alex felt cold dread settle in his stomach. "That will trigger our automated defense protocols. Both sides will escalate to maximum force. Millions will die," Zira said simply, "all because of one commander's ambition." Alex checked his tactical map. "We need to move faster. If full-scale war erupts, that trading post might not remain neutral for long." As they prepared to continue, Zira placed a limb on his arm. "There is something else. Your commanding officer, Colonel Mercer, was captured during the initial attack. Krell plans to execute him publicly as retribution for my supposed death." "Mercer?" Alex's blood ran cold. The colonel had been a mentor, the reason Alex had joined the Earth Defense Force in the first place. "How long do we have?" 3 days, according to the broadcast. The execution will coincide with Krell's formal ascension ceremony. Alex's jaw tightened. "Then we have 3 days to stop a war and save my colonel." No pressure. Zira's mandibles clicked in what he now recognized as her version of grim humor. Indeed. They traveled through the afternoon, making better time as Zira's strength continued to return. She could now move independently across level ground, though Alex still carried her through difficult terrain. Their bodies had developed an unexpected synchronicity, adjusting to each other's movements with increasing ease. As twilight approached, they found shelter beneath the enormous roots of a fallen tree. The massive root system created a natural fortress, protected from aerial observation and ground approach from 3 sides. Alex used the last of his medkit to treat Zara's healing wounds. His fingers moved carefully over her exoskeleton, now familiar with the patterns and textures unique to her body. "Your shell, your armor, is nearly depleted of power," Zira observed, watching as Alex's HUD flickered with low-energy warnings. "Yeah," he confirmed. Basic functions only now. No enhanced strength, no thermal regulation, minimal filtration. Zyra studied him with that unnerving intensity. Remove it. Alex raised an eyebrow. Not a great idea in hostile territory. It serves no purpose now beyond weighing you down, she countered. And I would see you without it. The request caught Alex off guard, but the logic was sound. With minimal power, the armor offered little protection and significantly reduced his mobility. Reluctantly, he began the process of disengaging the seals and connections. Piece by piece, the armor came away until Alex stood in his base layer, a fitted black compression suit designed to manage moisture and temperature beneath the armor systems. He felt strangely vulnerable, aware of Zyra's gaze tracking every movement. "You are not as I expected," she said finally. Disappointed, Alex asked with a wry smile, stacking his armor components against the root wall. "Intrigue," she corrected. "Your species relies on external protection rather than evolutionary adaptation. Yet beneath, you are," she seemed to search for the right word, "elegant in your construction." The compliment, if that's what it was, felt oddly intimate. As night fell completely, the temperature dropped significantly. Without his armor's thermal regulation, Alex found himself shivering slightly in the cool air. Zyra noticed immediately. "Your body temperature is decreasing. Is this normal?" "Just cold," Alex explained, rubbing his arms. "Nothing serious." Zyra moved closer, her body radiating surprising warmth. Araxian exoskeletons naturally retain heat. It is an adaptation for our ancestral environment. Before Alex could respond, she extended her limbs, creating a semicircle of warmth around him. The gesture was so unexpected, so contrary to everything he'd been taught about Araxians, that he froze momentarily. "This is not necessary," he said, though he made no move to pull away. "Practical survival cooperation," she replied, mandibles clicking softly. Nothing more. Yet as they settled into this strange arrangement, Alex couldn't help noticing the careful way her limbs positioned themselves, never touching him directly but maintaining precise distance to create optimal warmth. It spoke of consideration beyond mere survival. "Why did you save me?" Zyra asked suddenly, breaking the silence. "The truth, Captain Reeves." Alex considered the question seriously. Initially, military value. An Araxian queen would be an intelligence goldmine. And now, he met her compound gaze. "Now I'm not sure. Maybe because executing wounded prisoners isn't how I was trained. Maybe because I've spent enough time fighting this war and wanted to try something different." Zyra's antenna brushed lightly against his arm, a gesture he was beginning to recognize as thoughtful consideration. Unusual reasoning for a soldier. "I'm finding this entire situation unusual," Alex admitted with a small laugh. They fell into comfortable silence, the strangeness of their circumstances somehow diminished by the simple fact of their shared warmth in the alien night. As Alex drifted towards sleep, he heard Zyra's voice, pitched lower than her normal communication. "In Araxian culture, to share warmth is an act reserved for those of shared purpose. We now have such purpose, Alexander Reeves." He wasn't sure if he was meant to hear the words, but they followed him into dreams that, for the first time since the war began, weren't filled with combat and loss. The bond forges. Morning arrived with a strange mist settling over the landscape, turning the alien terrain into a ghostly panorama of purple-tinged fog. Alex emerged from their shelter to find Zyra already alert, her antenna sweeping methodically through the air. "The mist interferes with scanners," she explained without prompting. "Favorable conditions for travel, though visual navigation will be challenging." Alex nodded, gathering the essential components of his armor while leaving the power-depleted shell behind. The chest piece still contained emergency supplies, and the helmet retained minimal functionality for environmental scanning. "How's the leg?" he asked, watching as Zyra tested her injured limb. "Functional," she replied, demonstrating by placing weight on it. Not optimal, but sufficient for independent movement across moderate terrain. Despite her words, Alex noticed the subtle tremor in the limb when she fully extended it. "I can still help when needed," he offered. Zyra's compound eyes studied him, reflecting fractured images of the misty landscape. "Your concern extends beyond tactical necessity." It wasn't a question, but Alex answered anyway. Yes. 3 days of shared danger and intimate proximity had transformed his perspective. Where once he had seen an alien enemy, he now recognized a complex being with intelligence, honor, and courage that matched any human he'd known. They set out through the mist, moving eastward with renewed urgency. Krell's declaration of war meant increased military activity throughout the region, and Colonel Mercer's impending execution added personal stakes to their mission. "Tell me about your colonel," Zyra said as they navigated a field of strange, bulbous plants that released clouds of spores when disturbed. Alex stepped carefully, mindful of the alien vegetation. "Mercer is unconventional. Brilliant tactician, terrible at politics. He believes in fighting when necessary but never forgets we're protecting people, not just territories." "He sounds similar to me," Zyra observed, her movement through the field somehow avoiding triggering the spore releases. "Perhaps why we both found ourselves targets of those who prefer simpler narratives." Alex smiled at the comparison. "Maybe. He recruited me personally after I disobeyed orders to save civilians during the Europa conflict. Said the military needed soldiers who remembered what they were fighting for." "Wise leadership," Zyra commented. "Among Araxians, the Queen must balance military necessity with the hive's ultimate welfare. Those who cannot see beyond immediate victory often make poor long-term decisions." The terrain grew steeper as they approached a ridge that would give them line of sight to the plains beyond. Alex offered his hand as they climbed, and Zyra accepted the assistance without hesitation, her limb wrapping carefully around his forearm. The contact sent an unexpected shiver through him. At the ridge's peak, they paused to survey their route. The neutral trading outpost was visible in the distance, a collection of mismatched structures surrounded by a defensive perimeter. Several ships were docked at its small landing pad. "We could be there by nightfall if we push," Alex said, calculating distances against their current pace. Zyra's antenna suddenly went rigid. "Movement. North quadrant." Alex dropped immediately, pulling Zyra down beside him as a patrol of Araxian soldiers emerged from the mist below. Unlike the scattered patrols they'd avoided previously, this was a full squad. 12 soldiers with heavy weaponry, moving in standard search formation. "They're between us and the outpost," Alex whispered, assessing options. "We'll have to circle around. Add hours to our journey." Zyra remained perfectly still, eyes fixed on the patrol. "They are elite guards. Krell's personal unit. They would recognize me instantly." The patrol began ascending the ridge, following a path that would intersect directly with their position in minutes. "We need to move," Alex urged, already plotting an escape route back through the spore field, where the mist and vegetation might conceal them. But Zyra didn't move. "No, these guards must report to Krell regularly. Their failure to check in would trigger wider searches." "What are you suggesting?" Alex asked, though he already suspected her answer. Zyra turned to him, mandibles set in what he now recognized as determination. "I will reveal myself. Command them to mislead Krell." "Too risky." Alex objected immediately. "If even one remains loyal to Krell, I am still their queen." Zyra cut him off. "Araxian biology includes compulsory response to royal pheromone commands. It is how our society maintains cohesion across vast territories." The patrol drew closer, now less than 100 meters away. "And if it doesn't work?" Alex asked, hand moving to his sidearm. Zyra's limb covered his hand, stopping the movement. "Then we fight. But trust me first, Alexander." The use of his first name, rare in their interactions, caught his attention. After a moment's hesitation, he nodded. "I trust you." Zyra rose to her full height, an imposing figure even with her injuries, and emitted a complex series of clicks and chittering sounds that Alex's translator couldn't process. The effect on the patrol was immediate. All 12 soldiers froze, then prostrated themselves on the ground, antennae vibrating in perfect synchronization. Zara approached them, her movements now deliberate and regal in a way Alex hadn't witnessed before. She spoke in the Araxian language, her voice containing harmonics his translator rendered as simple text. Royal Commandi Sequenci DETCTED. The soldiers remained prostrated as she continued, occasionally responding with short, deferential clicks. After several minutes, they rose in unison, saluted with crossed limbs, and departed back down the ridge at double speed. Alex waited until they were out of sight before approaching. "What did you tell them?" "That I am on a classified diplomatic mission. That reports of my death are misinformation designed to smoke out traitors. That they are to report to Krell that they found no sign of me in this quadrant, then return to standard patrol routes. Will they obey?" Zyra's mandibles clicked once. "They already are. Royal Command pheromones override conscious choice temporarily. By the time the effect wanes, they will be too far away to reconsider." Alex stared at her with new appreciation. "That's quite an evolutionary adaptation. A mixed blessing," Zyra replied, suddenly sounding weary. "It ensures unity in crisis, but has been exploited by queens throughout our history. I use it sparingly." The effort seemed to have taxed her healing body. As they continued toward the outpost, Alex noticed her injured limb trembling more prominently. "Let me help," he said, offering support. This time, instead of clinical efficiency, Zyra's limbs arranged themselves around him with what felt like deliberate gentleness. One appendage curved around his shoulder, another at his waist, creating a closeness that went beyond practical necessity. "Your heart rate increases again," she observed as he carried her down the steep section of the ridge. Still situational awareness. Alex couldn't suppress a smile. Maybe not entirely. They traveled in companionable silence until midday, when a sudden thunderstorm forced them to seek shelter in a rock formation that resembled a natural arch. The rain on Nexus 7 was acidic enough to irritate human skin and potentially damage Araxian exoskeletons. Inside the shelter, they shared the last of Alex's rations. The proximity necessitated by the small space no longer felt awkward or threatening. Instead, there was a comfortable familiarity to their movements around each other. "The outpost is called Harmony Point," Zyra said as they watched the rain intensify. "Established by neutral traders from the Centauri Collective after the war's first major battles." "I've heard of it," Alex replied. "Officially off-limits to military personnel from both sides, but rumor says it's a hotspot for intelligence exchange and black market tech." "Both true," Zyra confirmed. "It is also where I first proposed peace negotiations through intermediaries. The trader Volok facilitated initial communications with your Admiral Lakota." Alex raised his eyebrows. "Lakota? She's Chief of Joint Operations Command. Direct line to the President. Which is why I chose her," Zyra explained. "Bold initiatives require authority to match. Your Lakota understood immediately what was at stake." As Zyra spoke, Alex noticed an unusual pattern emerging on her exoskeleton, subtle iridescent highlights that seemed to pulse with her words. He'd seen Araxians in combat, in death, but never in states of what might be called emotion. "Your carapace is changing color," he observed. Zyra went still, antenna drawing close to her body in what appeared to be embarrassment. An involuntary response. I did not realize it had progressed to visible manifestation. "Progressed from what?" Alex asked, curious about the reaction. Zyra seemed to debate internally before responding. Araxian physiology includes biochemical responses to compatible potential mates. These usually occur only within our species. Alex processed this information slowly, its implications dawning on him. "Are you saying that my body is responding to you as a potential mate?" "Yes." Zyra's direct answer caught him off guard. "It is unprecedented between our species." Unexpected. Is it problematic for you? Alex asked carefully. Confusing, she admitted, but not unwelcome. Your actions have demonstrated qualities valued in Araxian culture: courage, strategic thinking, loyalty to principles beyond simple obedience. These are attractive traits. The conversation should have felt alien, impossibly strange. Yet somehow, it didn't. 3 days of constant proximity, of shared danger and vulnerability, had created something neither could have anticipated. In human culture, Alex said slowly, attraction usually begins with friendship, with learning to see someone clearly. And do you see me clearly, Alexander? Zyra asked, her voice containing harmonics the translator struggled to convey. More clearly with every passing hour, he answered honestly. Before they could continue this unexpected conversation, the ground beneath them trembled. Not the natural movement of Nexus 7's occasional seismic activity, but the distinctive vibration of heavy artillery. They moved to the arch's opening, looking toward the direction of Harmony Point. On the horizon, flashes of weapons fire punctuated the stormy sky. The outpost is under attack, Alex said, squinting through the rain. Zyra's antenna extended fully, stretching toward the distant conflict. Multiple signals, both Araxian and human forces. Krell has broken the neutrality accord. Alex's jaw tightened. He's eliminating any place we might seek help, cutting off avenues of communication. Then we must hurry, Zyra said, straightening to her full height. The battle provides cover for our approach, but also threatens our only means of preventing war. As the rain began to subside, they set off at the fastest pace Zyra could maintain. Her injured limbs still hindered her, but determination seemed to override physical limitations. Alex matched her stride, occasionally supporting her across difficult terrain. The landscape changed as they approached Harmony Point, natural vegetation giving way to cleared zones and primitive agriculture. They encountered abandoned vehicles, evidence of civilians fleeing the conflict. Taking cover behind one such vehicle, they observed the battle unfolding around the outpost. Araxian forces had surrounded the main compound while human troops appeared to be defending it. An unexpected alliance born of necessity. The traitors must have called for help when Krell's